Now, if you've followed any successful people, you know the importance of being self-aware of your strengths and weaknesses so that you can further succeed in life. And that brings us to personality and strengths tests. These are the number one thing that you can do to improve and get to understand who you are as a person. What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? And the granddaddy of all personality and strengths tests right now is the DISC assessment. Why is it the granddaddy? Because it is very thorough, it's quite well known, and it's really darn expensive. Now, I've taken the DISC assessment myself, but here is the crash course guide on what a DISC assessment is for anyone who's new in 5 minutes or less. So the DISC assessment is a very thorough read on who you are as a person, and it's broken down into 4 simple categories. It dives a lot deeper than that, but from a quick start guide level, that's what it does. DISC, that's why it's called DISC. D is more of the dominant type personality sphere. If you're really high D, you're usually a lawyer or someone who's domineering, or a leader who's extroverted and very impulse driven. You take actions quickly and you don't stop to think sometimes. I would be the personality type for people who are more so social and extroverted as well, but more so in the form of communicating and relationships with others. S is now bordering on the introverted side. So S is the relationships oriented version of the introvert's personality type. Maybe you like to talk to people, but it's more so in smaller groups. You love the social connections, but it's smaller groups. And then C, of course, is the number one introvert personality trait. You're not domineering. You're really focused on the rules, the regulations, and sticking to the guidelines and following the rules and everything that the company or your boss or your organization gives you to a T. And you're very particular, you check your math, you verify things, you're skeptical of false information or information that is not backed up with rules or facts or science. And that is what a C is. Now, here is the big point that you have to understand with DISC assessments. It's not saying that you should try to be the best in all 4 of these categories. In fact, 90% of people should score high in 2 of them, 1 or 2 of them tops. And that's very normal. What it is saying is that you have to, once you get your scores on these, you have to identify which areas are you too extreme at and identify those so that you can fix those weaknesses. For example, if you're too off the charts D, guess what? Obviously, your weakness is that you don't take time to think things through, and therefore you make bad decisions sometimes because you didn't think it through. Or you make bad decisions because you can't control your impulses and you react out of anger. Let's take a look at something like a C. Well, what's the extreme of that? Well, let's say you're too particular with rules. You're so particular with all these useless or minuscule rules that it pisses other people off, or it bogs you down from actually doing effective work because you're wasting so much time following these particular rules. So by identifying this and really being honest with yourself, because again, if you're biased and you're like, you know what, this isn't true, I'm not so high C, when you really are, then that's not going to do anyone any good because reality and your fantasy don't align. So if you are honest, which is the first step, then you have to identify, well, this is affecting my life negatively. How can I adjust to do it right? And of course, the last tactic, or the big tactic, is that you can now start to understand other people's DISC just by starting to really see them interact And by doing so, you can find the best way of communicating with them to get the same point across without offending them or pissing them off. Maybe an introvert or someone who's high C really requires rules and regulations and a formalized process before you offer anything to them, and you have to make sure you back it up with reasons or evidence. Maybe someone who's high D, they're very informal and you just want to just give it to them quick, fast, and it's about being honest and off the cuff and real and emotional. So what it effectively does is it increases your chances of getting the reaction you want from the other person in an honest and ethical manner by not lying or manipulating in a unethical way, but instead being very prepared with how you communicate with different personality styles. That's all I got to say in this quick crash course on DISC assessments. Hopefully you check them out.